Okay, I want to talk about two separate topics, but they're closely related. Now, as all of you have seen, the Gunverse version of Jimmy Olsen revealed. And what does it say? Today marks the 83rd birthday of Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen, who first appeared in comics in 1941. Not exactly true, as this was November of 1938, Action Comics number 6? Yep, there's Jimmy Olsen. But whatever came what may, congratulations to Skylar Gisondo anyway. Don't think I'll be seeing this movie anytime soon, but hey, it's a good Jimmy Olsen, not a terrible one. But it got me thinking about a couple of articles. I saw a couple of articles. What was Snyder thinking? James Gunn understands Superman. Fans refuse to support Zack Snyder over a crucial casting. Now here it's talking about the fans refusing to support Zack Snyder's decision, and they're favoring James Gunn's version. But I was thinking about Jenny Olsen. Wasn't there not a Jenny Olsen? I do believe that was Man of Steel. Yeah, I do remember this. Jenny Olsen. Yeah. She definitely was in Man of Steel, but I think she also showed up in Batman v Superman. She was there for a little bit, right? But I think they were also talking about, you ended up with the consequences. Zack Snyder killed one of the best arcs in DC before it began. I guess because they were, what this article is saying is that other people could use Jimmy Olsen. Here, Jimmy Olsen, now this is in the extended version, right? This is in the Zack Snyder cut of Batman v Superman, in which Jimmy Olsen was a CIA operative and he was killed. And so it was unfortunate. When I saw it, I was like, oh, that's kind of weird. I said, oh, maybe that works. It's Zack Snyder's universe. You know, it's a different time, right? And it wasn't exactly the traditional stuff. Now, in a way, Mark McClure, who showed up in Zack Snyder's Justice League, was the original movie Jimmy Olsen after Tommy Bond, of course, and the serials. But you had, for the modern movies, 1978, which I got to think about for a moment here. Remember that most of the hopeful, positive hope and fantasy and happiness most of it was condensed into this movie, the year I was born in, Superman the movie. And I think it's like what Mark Hamill said about Star Wars. You can only revisit a part of it, but you can't go back to 1977. Mark Hamill, for all his political rants and raves in the last few months, was right about Star Wars. You can't go back. But going back to Jimmy Olsen, now, we're getting into the race swapping or gender swapping. We start with Jenny Olsen, right? Here we got Jimmy Olsen. Now, you and I, we're smart people. I mean, so for those of you who went to college, I mean, college from the year 2000s or so, you and I, we know it's not about race. Though race swapping can be excessive and gender swapping can be excessive. But we'll get into that at the end of this video. It's the fact that this guy looks like Shamar Moore's son, right? His sexy son who takes after his father. It's not about that he's black, okay? It's that this guy really was not Jimmy Olsen. And we talk about Supergirl TV show from the CW and from CBS for like one season. This is not Jimmy Olsen, okay? It doesn't even remind you of Jimmy Olsen, right? That's what Jimmy Olsen sees when he looks in the mirror, right? Well, at least this Jimmy does when he sees Mercat Brooks every time he looks in the mirror. It's true. And going into another race swap here, Wendell Pierce says Perry White. I thought about it for the last few days, few weeks. Now, I think this is the actor that I remember, Ray. If you ever watched Ray with Jamie Foxx, and that's the guy that goes, oh yeah, Mr. $1 bill. Yeah, that guy. That guy that cheats Ray of his money. Yeah, that's the guy. I think he played that character, right? The one that I think Ray worked with the white man, but it was a black man that cheats him. I don't know. It's just, I don't know. It was a different story. You know, biopics are different from real life. But anyway, Perry White never needed to be Perry Black. It never needed to happen. Do you know why? Because Franklin Stern, who was a character in the 90s, Franklin Stern was the owner of the Daily Planet, a major shareholder of the Daily Planet. He owned the building, and Perry White worked under him, right? So he never really needed to be black. He needed to just work under Perry White. Perry White just needed to work under Franklin Stern. So Franklin Stern, James Earl Jones played him in one episode. So Franklin Stern was the guy in charge, the administrator. I mean, without Franklin Stern, you wouldn't have a Daily Planet. Bruce Wayne took over the Daily Planet for a short time. Lex Luthor, I think, temporarily owned it. But Franklin Stern was the black man who owned it. So Perry White worked for a black man, in short. Um, so never the race swapping never needed to happen. Even if you put Franklin Stern as a cameo, right? The character Franklin Stern also appeared in Smallville. I think it was season 9. But keep in mind a few things. When is race or gender swapping too much? Keep in mind that James Gunn, who didn't really want to do any of this stuff to begin with, now suddenly wants to do it. You know, for the money, for the profit. I always kind of joked and said a lot of these directors and producers want to do Martin Scorsese, Leo DiCaprio stuff. Like this was a stepping stone on the way to doing Oscar, to getting that. Once you get that Oscar, you can fuck off. You don't have to worry about your, like, that's why I always think every actor wants to get their Oscar. Once they get the Oscar, they don't have to worry about anything anymore. You know, Harrison Ford with an Oscar, with 10 Oscars, right? Harrison Ford could care less about anything. Just don't bug me about Star Wars, right? You know, so I don't know what James Gunn's long term plan is, but yeah, he didn't like Michael Keaton as Batman. Did cancel the Batgirl movie, canceled the Wile E. Coyote movie, along with David Zaslav. So I don't have any faith. This guy tries to act like he's genuine about this shit. Um, God, I'm still thinking of the Guy Gardner outfit. It would have been better to get Iceman, right? To get Sean Ashmore as Guy. If you got Sean Ashmore as Guy Gardner, that argument over. And already people are making their own teaser trailers and things. When is it too much? Well, in the case of like with Ra's al Ghul, he can't possibly be race swapped. He can be gender swapped, and that would be a mistake. Seems like what's his face? Bruce Timm didn't learn that with the Penguin, did he? Because Ra's al Ghul can be British, he can be Indian, he can be Middle Eastern. Most people assume he's Middle Eastern. He can be Japanese, he can be black, he can be Colombian, he could be Dominican, he could be Cambodian, he could be anything. He could be an Eskimo turned, but he's got to be a muscular, tall guy, and he's got to show authority. That's what Ra's al Ghul is about. So race swapping doesn't exist with this character. It's hard not to see a little bit of Tom Welling here from season 10, right? But you don't want to race and gender swap most of the characters in like something like Superman, Batman, The Flash, or Green Lantern. Remember, Iris West was white from the 90s, and then they made her black. They did a little bit of this stuff. Now, I guess that might be fine because most people don't know who Iris West was. I didn't like the TV version of Iris West because, not because of her race, but because she fucked around with a police officer while her boyfriend was in a coma. And from season 1 of The Flash. Do you all remember this, right? I mean, how can anybody forget? That was just so cold. More than Captain Cold. So, I think you want to maintain the look and the feel of the characters from their counterparts. Now, people are still complaining about Jimmy Olsen, that they could have used him in different things. Remember that it's not as easy as it looks. Now, when we think about comic books, yeah, comic books are easy to, they're not easy. You still have to make a schedule. You have to get the artist, you have to get the color separator, make the colors, the inker, and then the writer. So it's like 4 different people, okay? The inker, right? The color, the penciler, and the writer. That's usually 4 people. And they put together as many stories as possible. There's so many comic books, and so there are billions of ideas. And it's easy to write them down on paper, but then to make comic books, that narrows it down a bit. And then to make like a radio show, because I do believe the superheroes met before Batman v Superman. Batman and Superman met in a radio show decades ago. So then when you're doing TV shows and movies, that's harder because actors have to get paid. Producers have to sign off on it. The committees who make toys or who are trying to advertise, or the guy in charge like David Zaslav have to approve. Everybody has to approve. I don't know how that they approve that Aquaman animated series. That's cringe as shit. I'd rather go back and watch the Filmation version of Aquaman than what they made back in 2020, 2021. using Jimmy Olsen or other characters and other things, yeah, Disney had the money and Kevin Feige had the patience, so they made all kinds of like things. But honestly, you have such a limited time and a limited amount of money, limited, to do certain stories in the DC universe so that everything works out. In the case of Injustice, like that's a comic book series, they could only do a 70-minute show. All right, a 70-minute show, and Injustice is like the series, the best that it is so many. It's like War and Peace. Okay, it's like reading War and Peace. That you get so much out of just reading the books than you do out of a damn 70-minute short. Okay, that the only way they could get away with that is by telling you just basically what happened in those 5+ years of Superman turning evil. Otherwise, you'd probably be better off with a motion comic. There's just no way. So race swapping, gender swapping, you want to make sure that your characters that your actors remind you of the characters from the shows, from previous incarnations, from the pages, so that it all works out, so that it's all seamless. Race and gender swapping should be taken at discretion and done responsibly. Making a female penguin, making a black Perry White, which like I say, defeats the purpose of Franklin Stern, who is now long forgotten. What is it? Sam Jones, who played Pete Ross, a black Pete Ross. There was never a real like need to race swap him, but it was something different. But it's not really. It doesn't really do anything either way. You could have it one way or the other. I do like to see more. I would like to see more Mexicano representation. Seeing a Mexican Luffy from One Piece worked okay, but like I say, every single time you do it, you don't want to do it in abundance to where it's like you don't even recognize the show. Because then you got like the Black Honeymooners. Anybody remember that? Mike Epps and Cedric the Entertainer, where it was all the Black Honeymooners, and that's a whole different universe, right? So anyway, let me know what you think of gender race swapping and what you think of the new Jimmy Olsen. There was another Jimmy Olsen from the Superman Returns, and he was cringe as hell. And there's been animated versions. I'm just kind of going on about this stuff because every now and then I do see these articles and it motivates me to write something. So is it an injustice, or are we getting the things that we deserve? Or are you looking forward to James Gunn? I'm not looking forward to anything. I'm looking forward to Joker 2, Sonic 3, and that's it. And by the way, the Sonic 3 trailer, where the fuck is that? I think somebody lied. About that Sonic 3 trailer. I was gonna do a live reaction, but nope, not happening.